To the back, cop one right in the face. And Jacko, he's whacked. Jacko's hit.
We've come a fair way since the blood and guts days of 70s and 80s AFL.
Oh, no. That's unbelievable.
Oh, boy.
Well, this is sensational. The umpire has gone down.
But head knocks are still a big issue for players. The AFL has made some changes in the past 5 years around concussion management. But even so, players are still feeling the impact.
Barnsley sort of went into him with the long...
For some, repeated head knocks have caused brain injuries that severely impede their quality of life. That's why more than 100 players are suing the AFL, arguing they suffered permanent life-altering injuries due to the AFL and clubs' negligence in managing their concussion risks. I'm Daniel James, and you're listening to 7am. Today, former Essendon and Geelong ruckman John Barnes, on the long-term neurological damage he's dealing with and his quest for accountability. It's Monday, April 13. John, thanks for joining us. When did your health start to take a turn? What kind of symptoms did you start experiencing?
It was about 13 years ago. I'd come back from the Great Western Races and just talking with my good mate, Dean Wallace, and out of nowhere I just started frothing at the mouth and turned stiff as a board, eyes rolled back and started having a fit, and he thought that I was dead. And that was pretty much the first one I had. It was on a Sunday afternoon about 4 o'clock.
And you ended up in hospital. Did you receive any sort of diagnosis after that happened? What did the doctors have to say?
The doctors at the hospital just thought I was dehydrated, and I thought, oh, yeah, no worries. Very lethargic, felt like I'd been in a fight, very, very tired that afternoon, slept probably most of the night without interruption, woke up Monday, still pretty crook and lethargic for the next couple of days, and 8 weeks later it happened again. And I fell to the floor, and with the seizures I have, I don't get any warning. They just come out of nowhere, and I hit the ground, and 8 weeks after that again I had another one, and then we started getting some warning signs, and then we found out that I had epilepsy.
And when did you start to suspect that the seizures and the epilepsy were connected to footy?
Well, I'd went and done a test with a couple of doctors, and they said, you got any family history? I said, no. Dementia? No. Anything along those lines? I go, no. They said, have you ever had anything to do with, brain injuries? And I said, oh, look, I've been knocked out a few times playing footy. And they said, look, we'll just put you through some simple tests. And then Dr. Alan Pearce put me on this machine, and we did a test for about 45 minutes. And he said, wow. I go, wow, was this good or well bad? And he just said, your cognitive brain's not that flash. He goes, you're like a car without brakes. So I went, well, that's not good. And he goes, no, unfortunately. And they can't look inside your brain. And he said, but all your tests on how quick you responded in your time with when we put the pictures and pressing the buttons to react, you weren't flash with the average that people do the test in. I went, oh, that's not good. And then we did a little bit more digging to try and find the right neurologist, a doctor called Mark Cook at St. Vincent, sat down with him, and he's the best thing I've met since I've had this dreaded disease.
How has the diagnosis and the condition affected your ability to live and work?
Very early days, before I was medicated, God, I was putting the Wheaties in the fridge and the milk in the cupboard and going to the supermarket and just forgetting stuff and having to go back 2 and 3 times. And I've never had to write a list in my life, but that became the every day-to-day mundane task. It was really frustrating, and it just put a bit of havoc on the life I was leading. And my kids were old enough to drive and all that sort of stuff, so it was a bit less of a burden on them. But every time they saw a seizure, it wasn't good. It was pretty ordinary on the family. But, geez, it put a bit of strain on my wife.
Mm. Yeah, so apart from the seizures and the forgetfulness, did it have any sort of impact on your demeanour, your temper?
Yeah, sometimes I'd get angry for no reason and go off me rocker at the smallest little thing. And I'm pretty much a pretty big joker, and I have some fun doing that. And I've sort of come back to that a little bit with the medication I'm on. And it was a pretty trying time there for about 3 or 4 years where I was just no good to live with. I was just a grumpy, miserable prick that just really had no help, to be honest. I was just a lost soul.
And what about work? How's it impacted your ability to work?
Oh, look, work-wise, I've gone for several jobs with higher paying positions, but I started off as a garbo driver and obviously couldn't drive a heavy vehicle for 10 years, seizure-free. So that put me out of action. I had to fight for my job because they were going to dismiss me because of my epilepsy. So I fought them through a current affair with discrimination and I got my job back. And then I had to go through rigorous testing with Vic Roads and I had to show council my ID and my driver's licence and get tested every 3 months to let them know that I was okay to work. And they thought I was a liability. And it was just all this bullshit I had to put up with and all the hurdles I had to jump through just to maintain a job. And the jobs I'd gone through and gone for, people looked up on the internet and they've actually gone, oh, sorry, mate, we can't employ you because you're too much of a risk. And it has it. And I went, well, that's a bit disappointing. So my pay would have in some states doubled and in some jobs I've gone for would nearly have tripled. And everyone else was getting a job in that industry bar me. And it was really disheartening and real concerning, and it was pretty much getting to the point where I've just got to do the job I know I can get a wage out of and just continue to contribute to the family.
Did you speak to the AFL at all about your condition?
I went into the AFL with Peter Jess and we had a quick chat with Andrew Dillon. And his first words were, what do you want out of this, Barnesy? I said, what do you mean, what do I want out of this? And I went, well, what are you after? What's your price? And I said, I don't want money out of this. I said, what are you going to do tonight, Andrew, when you finish work? And you're going to walk across the boulevard, you're going to order a steak, you're going to have a red wine, and you're going to sit there and enjoy some good times with your mates, yeah? Because I'll probably do that. Guess where I'm going, Andrew? I'm going home to have a bath. My wife will sit at the end of the bath and watch me so I don't have a seizure and drown. I'll get out. She'll watch me dry so I don't fall on the ground and hit my head and die. And then I'll go to bed and I'll watch TV. That's my day. And that's not just my day, that's my whole life at the moment, Andrew. So you tell me how good I'm going.
Coming up, the groundbreaking class action against the AFL and what it will mean for the players and the game.
Geelong player down behind the play here. Howard has been spoken to.
Barnes it is.
John, you played in the late 80s through to the 90s. Has the culture of the game changed a bit since then in terms of how rough play is or how you manage injuries when they come up? Did you, during your period as a player, feel the pressure just to toughen it out even when you receive big knocks to the head? And how many big knocks did you receive during your career?
The guys of today don't really know about tough knocks. To be honest, Daniel, it was a beast back in my time, and Sheeds was a beast of a coach. Terry Danaher was as tough as a cat's head. Billy Duckworth, Roger Merritt. He broke my nose about 4 times just when I was a 16, 17-year-old kid, and that was the warm-up to playing footy. You were battered from pillar to post, and it wasn't enjoyable, but I thought to myself, if this is the big league, then you better pull your head in. And then you do boxing afterwards and, it was just a man's world. And I was a boy at the time. And, the best thing about getting knocked out, Daniel, you don't remember it, you don't feel it, you're out cold.
Right, so say you got knocked out in a game, how much pressure would there be just to go back out there and toughen it out?
Well, that's what you did. But the thing was, when you're on the ground, you'd see 2 or 3 footies instead of the 1 footy. And you just thought, oh, well, yep, you're all right. You just shake it off, you'd rub your head. You come off with 3 or 4 eggs in the back of your head. And there were some dirty pricks back in the day too that just wanted to kill you. And that's just how it was. And it was, dog eat dog sort of world. And there's some, pretty big dirty bastards back in my day.
The AFL is facing increasing pressure over concussion, with calls for the
issue of concussion has been in the sporting spotlight for some time, with clubs being urged to adopt stricter guidelines, including longer return to play periods and better processes for dealing.
And the culture around head knocks has changed dramatically since you've stopped playing, hasn't it?
Well, they've already admitted fault by changing the rules for head knocks and concussion, the protocol and all this sort of stuff that they've put down. If head knocks aren't an issue in footy, why are they changing the rules for it? That to me is flabbergasting. If I was in charge of an organisation where blokes are going to get knocked out and we're changing the rules for that, I'd be going, well, geez, maybe we've got something to answer to here.
Celebrated as a hard-nosed player. Max Rook was often in the thick of the action. Rook claims he suffered permanent injuries due to concussion and negligence of the AFL. He's the lead plaintiff in a class action lodged in Victoria's Supreme Court today.
John, you're part of the class action against the AFL. What are you hoping to achieve through that class action?
I think the biggest thing we want out of this, Daniel, or me personally, is for the AFL to pull their heads out of their asses and really have a think about what's going on. If this thing's real, it's going to cost them money somewhere down the line or somewhere down the track. If there's a fund set up for those people that have got it, it'll come out eventually. It affects people in different ways. We need to have a fund set up for the younger ones that are coming through now. They don't care at the moment because they're young and bulletproof. But when they get into their 40s, 50s and 60s, they're going to be wishing, shit, well, wish I had some coverage, because you don't play footy till you're 50 or 60. And when you're looking for something like I am to get a job that can secure your future and get you going, and people look online and go, nah, we're not touching him, he's got epilepsy, then your income goes from playing footy. Hopefully you set yourself up right, but the AFL don't want to go near it. They're giving you nothing. They can afford to pay it, so put it in a fund and pay the guys out. Good mate of mine, Benny Graham, he's got a system set up with the American Footy League because he played the game for 7 years. They got a great system. They look after their retired players. But this is a joke. The AFL know it. They know they're in for a big kick in the guts.
Back in 2014, you volunteered for a research project. There was a collaboration between the world-renowned Florida Institute of Neuroscience and Mental Health and the AFL Players Association, looking at the long-term effects of concussions on brains of footy players. What was your experience with that research project? Was it ever published, and what happened to it?
It got published New Year's Eve back about 6 or 7 years ago, I think. And they said that there was nothing to see here. John doesn't need any further testing. And that was a wow. That was a kick in the guts. That's like, are you for real? I don't need any testing. But I'm sitting at home having seizures. I can't drive my car. We're not getting any help. We've got nothing. You've just dropped us like hot potatoes. I'm just a number in a system that spat me out and doesn't give a rat's ass. Okay, no worries. So we've kept all the information, kept all the emails and all that sort of stuff, and that'll be part of the class action.
Do you think the AFL knew earlier about the risks from head injuries but didn't do anything about it because American football acted upon it in the early 2000s?
I think I read something, or my son brought it up for me. Gareth Andrew tried to bring it up in the 70s, 72 or 73, about head knocks, and they told him to go and jump. And that was, wow, I was trying to put this forward back in the 70s. And I think he might have been the president of the Players Association back then. And the AFL told him to go and get stuff back then. So, yeah, they've been trying for a while, and the insurance companies are jumping off.
Yeah, that's something that needs to be discussed because starting next month, more than 500 AFL players won't be covered for head trauma after the insurance company Zurich changed their policy. What will that mean for how the AFL manages concussion and related head injuries?
That's great for our case, because if Zurich's chucked it in, they're going, well, geez, they must be scared of something. Otherwise, they just keep insuring all the footballers. So that's just another feather in our cap that we can, chase the AFL for.
What advice would you give to younger players coming up through the ranks? What changes to the game would you like to see?
Do a contract where you're protected to play the game, or I'd set yourself up in a company name where you got your own insurance coverage, or I'd be holding someone accountable. Because footy is a job. You get covered. If I go to work here and I get hurt, I get workers' compensation if I hurt my leg or whatever. In my day, you didn't have that. You went to work, you got injured, and like a brain injury, you didn't get paid. You got no superannuation, you got nothing. So that's all the stuff we need to discuss also. So there's a lot of things that are just going to come out. This won't be head knocks. It'll be about all the stuff that we missed out on and everyone missed out on in my era.
Well, John, we really appreciate you speaking with us today, and look after yourself.
Good on you, mate. Thanks for the time.
Also in the news, peace talks between the US and Iran in the Pakistani capital of Islamabad are continuing for a second day after an initial day of negotiations totalling 14 hours failed to reach an agreement. US President JD Vance, who is heading the American delegation, says he's yet to see a commitment from Tehran on the nuclear issue and says he has given their best and final offer. US President Donald Trump, meanwhile, claims Washington has won the war on Iran regardless of how the talks conclude. And the federal government is launching a multi-million-dollar advertising campaign encouraging Australians to reduce car use as the global oil crisis persists. Dubbed Every Little Bit Helps, the national campaign will be rolled out this Monday across television, digital and outdoor advertising sites, such as billboards and posters, at a cost of up to $20 million. The announcement of the campaign came just hours after Prime Minister Anthony Albanese landed back in Australia, having signed an agreement with his Singaporean counterpart to make efforts to keep fuel and gas flowing between the two nations. I'm Daniel James. You've been listening to 7am. We'll be back tomorrow.